Hi everybody, and welcome to the new edition of the End of Celts podcast. Hope you're all keeping well who's listening. I'm delighted to be joined by two show regulars today, Francis and William. How are you both?
Aye, all good, Stephen, all good.
All right, mate. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries at all. Great to have you on again. So we'll just crack on with the first port of call, so to speak. And in their previous podcast, there was a lot of debate about a photo that was seen on Twitter. I mean, that's the dreaded word in this podcast. It was Chris Wilder and a third person that none of us knew about. So me, Stephen, I threw on the firework being like Chris Wilder's going to be a next manager, or he might be. But again, we've seen the next thing come up. It was literally a day after that podcast was released that Eddie Howe is meant to be closer and closer to the Celtic job, and he's piecing together his backroom team. Now, I think he's planning to bring in a few people up from Bournemouth from his old team. I think Simon Weatherstone and Stephen Purchase, if I'm correct there. But what are you thinking here, Francis? Are you seeing this becoming more reality now, or you still think it's paper talk and we shouldn't really believe everything we're reading?
I'm not sure. I don't believe it's paper talk. It seems to be too much in it. Whether it's as far on as we're getting led to believe or not, I mean, the papers have got to sort of exaggerate the news. They shouldn't exaggerate the news, but they do because they've got to sell papers at the end of the day. But I think it just... The Eddie Howe thing, the latest sort of stories coming out about him getting to pick up potentially pick his own backroom staff is a good thing. It's shown trust in the guy, which I think we need to do, because obviously Lennon never got that trust, and in fairness to the board, in that sense, Lennon kind of sold his soul to the devil, but not being strong enough to say he wants his own backroom staff. And I think also, if the stories are true that he wants his own backroom staff, it kind of alludes to what I was saying last week, that's one of that's reasons why it slows down any sort of announcement, because he might want X, Y, and Z in place, and he's not got to fully commit. He's only got to verbally commit now, but he's not got to totally commit until he gets these things in place. And if these guys are still under contract to the end of the season, then they can't obviously come in. So it's maybe just ways it is slowing down, and it's maybe got a wee bit closer, so Celtic are maybe releasing a wee bit more information at the press or whatever. They're getting wee snippets, but it's like, because it's dragging on that long, I don't know if it's more you're just the hopes making you think it's going to be Howe. I still think it will be him. I've no reason to think it isn't going to be him, but at the same sense, there's not really a lot to say it's definitely going to be him, but it seems to be the only candidate right now. It's the only name that's getting mentioned. As Kennedy seems well out of the picture, Keane seems well out of the picture. We've not had much in Maresca in weeks and weeks, so it seems Eddie Howe or God knows what right now.
Eddie Howe or Jack Ross? No, we don't.
Yeah.
But and one thing I'm struggling to understand, William. So we're seeing that he's getting, well, the rumours, if we're led to believe, are true, that he's getting a full autonomy on his backroom staff, and he may be getting a certain level of war chest in terms of transfer funds for the rebuild. But these guys that he wants in for Bournemouth, they're currently going for a promotion push in the Championship. They're close to the playoffs, so they're in the playoff situation anyway. So what's stopping Celtic from at least saying to the fans that Eddie Howe's been appointed? Because we've seen with Rodgers, he was appointed, then drips and drabs his backroom staff were getting announced over the next coming weeks. Could that not be something that the Celtic board could do to us, just to give us a bit of a clarity on the situation?
Yeah, all the previous podcasts, I've totally agreed with you with this, Stephen, that we need some sort of clarity. I'm not having this for a minute, all this nonsense about people under contract at other clubs and all this. So you're telling me Eddie Howe wants his own backroom staff? Fine. And Celtic can tell him, right, you can have that, but you can't tell me that he's going to knock back the job because he doesn't get a coach from Bournemouth or whatnot. And even if we are wanting these guys, buy out their contracts. It can't cost fortunes. Don't get the guys. I agree with Franny in the sense that he is the only name that's getting touted just now, and I don't know whether that's more than hope because he's the man I want in charge. But the longer this drags out, the longer I just think that it's looking more likely that it might not happen. It should have been done weeks and weeks ago. We keep harping on about it every podcast, but I don't see why anything like that should be holding up a deal. And like you say, Stephen, even if it is the case, just announce, yes, Howe's agreed. He's not going to take charge at the end of the season. He's looking at getting his backroom staff in. I don't see how that's a hurdle that that Celtic should be looking to overcome. I mean, like I say, buy out the contracts, and you can't tell me Eddie Howe's like they can guarantee Eddie Howe you're going to bring your own backroom staff in. You can't tell me Eddie Howe's going to say, if I don't get this guy, I'm not taking the job. There's going to be other guys there. There's plenty of people he's worked with, and like he can build relationships again. I know we're probably going to touch on Kennedy later, but if the rumours are true and he is getting his backroom staff, I think that's great, because I think in the past Celtic have sort of forced upon this whole when these guys come in, they need to have a Celtic man that knows ins and outs of the game, but that's not necessarily been the case recently. Obviously, Lennon was forced his hand with his backroom staff recently. Thinking back, Big Ronnie had John Collins in place as assistant manager, and I'm all for Celtic men and people that know the club, but for me, it's not a necessity. There's plenty of people around the club that know what the club's about. Martin O'Neill brought his own backroom staff in. Rodgers brought his own. I know he had Kennedy as a first team coach, but he brought in Duff and his assistant as well. I don't think it's a necessity. So for me, I think that's all nonsense. And I've no idea what's holding it up. But again, just stick to the back teeth. It's all just, as Ross says, it's all just conjecture. We're absolutely clueless, in the dark as usual, and everything that comes up, I'm sick of seeing 100 different rumours each day. I'm just wanting some information that's actually factual for a change, because from day to day your mood's changing. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just tearing my hair out listening to all sorts of stories, and you're just wanting something, like you say, Stephen, just one wee announcement. I've been watching recently, there's Sheffield United just came out. I know they decided they were going to keep Heckingbottom in charge at the end of the season. They've just came out today and said, we've got a 5-man shortlist for the new manager's job. Heckingbottom's one of them. They said he's done a good job and he's interim term. We've got a 5-man shortlist. We're looking at it now. Bang, statement done. We know they're working behind the scenes. There's Bayern just got their man from Leipzig. Leipzig have literally 72 hours later, and I know Salzburg are a affiliate club of Leipzig, but this is what I've talked about in previous podcasts, where the boards that they're paid fortunes. If their plan A isn't going, they need to have a plan B, C, D, E. That's, to me, what Leipzig have done. Jesse Marsch has been at Salzburg, and they've obviously thought if worst comes to the worst and the man leaves, he comes in. And I wouldn't be surprised if Salzburg had a new manager in within the coming days either. There needs to be some sort of plan in place, and all these clubs are running it perfectly, putting an announcement out and sorting it out. We are still here 2 or 3 months later, and absolutely nothing. The only piece of information I've seen from the board was, like I've said before, was that Dermot Desmond interview, and in that interview he pretty much said, fans, you'll know when you know, shut up and let us get on with it.
I'm actually glad as well you brought up the point about Bayern Munich and Leipzig. I thought that was very interesting, because another interesting thing, that the Bayern Munich new manager, he's only 33 years old. That's mad, isn't it?
I know.
For a guy like that, like when they jump
He's
like
a
that.
well thought after man as well, to be fair.
Yeah. But moving on to the RB Leipzig sort of things as well, and we know their manager left, and you rightly said there, William, 72 hours later, they've got a new man in, former Celtic link. Funny enough, Jesse Marsch did a job.
Yeah.
It just shows you, as you rightly said, these teams, they thought out these plans years before the actual outcome happened, so they know what steps to take. And it feels like to me the Celtic board, they're throwing pins at the wall, no, like that pin the tail on the donkey type situation. And they don't know, they're in that boardroom, I don't know what they're doing. They're just sitting there having a laugh at each other, and we're out here panicking for no reason, and they're holding this information in really tightly. But coming back to yourself, Francis, the more this drags on, right, and to be honest, is how I feel at the moment. If Howe gets announced, just say a week or two from down the line, so a fortnight's time, let's say the announcement's made that Howe's going to be manager, because it's dragged on so long and Celtic's been in this position so long, would it not be like an anticlimax? Do you not? Is that not the feeling you're getting? Because for me, as William said, I'm sick of going on social media outlets, newspapers, reading things online. It's Roy Keane one day, it's Eddie Howe, Wilder. Then you're going to these Jack Ross and down that list as well. It feels to me the more this drags on, it's an anticlimax. What about yourself?
Well, can I start with saying, William, please don't pull your hair out because we're quite a baldy podcast as it is. I thought you pulling your hair out. I think there will be a sense of an anticlimax because, like we've just been talking about, it seems to be Eddie Howe or we don't know who it's got to be. If it's not Eddie Howe, it's anybody's guess after that. So I suppose you could argue it could be an anticlimax, but it'll be a good anticlimax because I think we're all in agreement, certainly in this podcast, that Eddie Howe's our number one. So in that sense, it'll be a good. But also going back to what William said, I know it's not great that the board's not saying we could go over that and over that. It's a valid argument that they should, if they have got some information, make an announcement. If they've not, then that's another argument as well. Why have they not done anything with the time frame? But to say that because guys are under contract, that shouldn't be an issue. If it clearly is an issue, if you've got a contract, at the end of the day. Celtic might be trying to gamble, and if these contracts are running out at the end of the season, Celtic could maybe try to play a gamble and say, well, we'll just wait till the contract's out. If we're not planning on announcing Eddie Howe, for example, till the end of the season, we'll announce the backs, we'll give them the backroom staff. So they might be trying to go the cheap option in that sense. I appreciate it's a big risk, but I don't think you can just brush that off as saying it's not a hurdle we can overcome. I also agree with you that we should have the finances to buy guys for Bournemouth out, but these guys might be looking at it going, well, if we get in the Premiership, I want another crack at the Premiership. So I don't think it's just as cut and dry as saying we'll just buy out the contracts. These guys might not want to leave until they know where Bournemouth is, but also agree that it should go to Eddie Howe. You should be saying, Eddie Howe, look, well, you'll get your backroom staff, but it might not be your first choice backroom staff. You'll need to go and find other guys. But he might look at it and go, well, he went away to Burnley. I don't know what backroom staff he came with him there. If it was forced on him, I doubt it was. Didn't really work out. So these guys he's wanting are maybe guys he really, really trusts. So that's what he's thinking about the Bournemouth thing. But I also think Celtic should be looking at it and saying, like, Eddie Howe shouldn't be picking Celtic. Celtic should be picking Eddie Howe. So yes. I'm sort of sitting on the fence with you. I don't think you can just brush off things like contracts and say that they're not an issue. It shouldn't really be for a club like Celtic going to Bournemouth, but Bournemouth's position, the money and down south, and that these guys might look at it and go, well, what, another crack in the Premiership or whatever.
Well, that was my point. So he's wanting these guys. I'd say the rumours are true, and he wants these guys from Bournemouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he wants the Celtic job if he gets the guys. You telling me if the two guys aren't coming, he's just going to refuse it? If that's the case, I don't want a manager like that in charge of my club.
But that's what I'm meaning. Like, obviously, well, it's all well documented. He didn't do so well at Burnley. It was obviously, I'm led to believe it's family issues. I don't think his family moved up and he got homesick. So maybe
I think one of his family got ill as well. So
right. So I don't know if, well, I'm maybe just way off the mark then, thinking he maybe wants these guys in so to help him settle better. But it could be a wee bit of that. But I do agree with William in saying that if it's them or nobody, then Celtic should be saying, well, we can't, but it's somebody else in as the manager. I agree in that sense.
Yeah, that's like gambling your whole next season on the hope that two guys coming for Bournemouth. That's that's fucking nonsense. You should just be saying, well, away you go then.
I agree with that because I think, to me, it feels like Eddie Howe's their man. It will be Eddie Howe but the only way it's got to be them is if Bournemouth didn't get up. So it's more like the backroom staff are seeing what's happening first before anything.
I think with the whole anti-climax thing, I'm getting to a point now where I'm just like, you know what? I don't really fucking care. Just announce somebody, just so I've got some sort of excitement in my life, because this is like depressing me.
The way I'm thinking as well, like, you've made a great point, and I always said to you guys on the podcast, Celtic have no time to chase any one individual, and no one individual is bigger than Celtic Football Club. I don't care for Eddie Howe or someone more noticeable in the football world like Roy Keane. No individual is bigger than the club. And as you rightly both said, if he's holding out for these two guys to pack it out of Bournemouth and come up with them to Celtic Park, and if they don't do it and that's kind of going to be it, and he won't come up. Just move on from Eddie Howe. I genuinely believe that there's coaches out there who would jump at the chance to manage a club like Celtic, from whether it's Germany, Spain, Italy, France, even in Scotland, even though there's not really much in Scotland to choose from. There has to be coaches out there who threw in their CVs. And I think the board shot themselves in the foot a wee bit when they said they threw all the CVs in the drawer when the point that Neil Lennon in the shower. And I think that there was a bit of a bad opinion there formed in the football and kind of management world, as if like, they didn't even look at our CVs anyway, so what's the point of playing for the job again? But if we look at it as well, in terms of Eddie Howe coming up to Celtic, William, as you said, you're getting sick of it. It's like a feeling now where you're looking on Twitter, you're looking on their Facebook page, on Instagram, just hoping for an announcement, a bit of a statement coming out somewhere, Mackay still being quiet. It's, as you said, it's almost like now the Celtic fans, or the majority that's on our pages anyway, just want something happening like yourself. And if it's not Eddie Howe, as you said, if we put all our eggs in one basket, who do we turn to?
I have no idea. Ever since Lennon left, you don't even know what a shortlist is, but if you're looking at the bookies list, and we've said it many times before, there's not one name on the list, except from Eddie Howe, that excites me. I said it in the last podcast I was in as well, that like the board taking this long is putting ourselves under massive pressure as well, because everybody's expecting Howe now. And if it's not a big name that we do get in, and they've taken this long, there's going to be a massive backlash. I've thought about it a lot, and I can't fathom why we haven't had any announcement or any name or any person in. And like we say, Eddie Howe's not been under contract. He's been free for however long. It just baffles me why it's taken so long. I genuinely don't know what is happening at our club at the moment. We're only 12 weeks away from Champions League qualifiers now.
87 days from the first game, I think.
And we're looking at a massive turnover in the squad, and we still have no manager in place. It's unfathomable. It's crazy.
Well, we do know one man who might be staying in a position of Celtic, if we're led to believe some paper talk today and rumours circulating around social media. I know that John McCoes especially says, don't be believing what you're reading, don't be believing what you're saying, but again, he always goes back to these things as well. So
to back up his point.
Yeah, so it's something we do have to talk about. And what I seen this morning, apart from the group chat, was that John Kennedy's been linked with a move upstairs to the sporting director role, director of football. Now, I've nothing personally against Kennedy. I know he's a Celtic man, and he got a horrible leg injury when he was on international duty that kind of wrecked his career, and Celtics took him on and nurtured him in to be a coach from the reserves way up to the first team and different scouts and different jobs within the club. But why, Francis, is this man glued to Celtic Football Club? Does he? Why is he untouchable when it comes to jobs?
Well, if you read Twitter and take a quote me and William, we don't know what dirt he's got on the board. It feels like he's got some serious dirt on the board. But to kind of sort of be a wee more serious, in an ideal world, to get a sporting director or director of football, whatever the job title's got to be, and get the one the manager wants, it's no, for me, that's not an ideal situation, because the manager shouldn't be picking his boss. So I think Celtic should be picking this director of football, and whether that's Kennedy or not, I kind of hope not, because I want new faces, new faces, new voices in there, and I just don't think Kennedy is the man, because if it's just the job that's in place and what's got the rebuild that we need or got to require, I think we really need a guy that's experienced in that role to carry that out. No disrespect to Kennedy. I mean, Kennedy might be great in that role. I'm led to believe that Brendan Rodgers, he was recommended for the role, and Brendan Rodgers said no, he wanted him on the coaching staff. So I don't know if the Celtic Football Club actually believe that he could do that role. But personally, just with the rebuild that is required, I think it'd be wise to go with somebody that's carried out the task before, a sporting director or a director of football that knows the role. And I don't think, to go back to Eddie Howe, I don't really think Eddie Howe should be picking his director of football, because, as we've spoke about before, if Eddie Howe leaves in 2-3 years' time, if the manager or whoever the manager comes in picks his director of football, does the director of football as well piss off with him? And it just goes back. I think Celtic should be picking, because whoever the manager is shouldn't pick his boss. We should be telling the manager, this is who you work for, not you tell us who you're working for. Because I understand, obviously, like, picking a direct football will help you with, like, as a sort of relationship, but I go back to the fact that I don't think you should pick your boss, and I don't think Kennedy should stay in the job.
The way I'm seeing this through my eyes is, there's that point, especially if we're saying that Kennedy's now linked with the director of football / sporting director / technical director / chief scout, whatever you want to call the actual position. But does this point, William, to maybe there's been a breakdown in communications with the favourite for the job role, Fergal Harkin? Do you think that's dead in the water now? If this is the latest name to be put out of the hat for this job?
Yeah, it seems to have went quiet on that front, didn't it? That was, I mean, the rumours of that were rife for weeks and weeks, but it seems to have went quiet there now. For me, when Lennon left, Kennedy and co should have went as well. It's not one man's fault what's happened this year. It's a group effort and it's a team effort, so they should have all went, in my opinion. Like Franny, I've not got a bad word to say about Kennedy. He's been fully committed to Celtic for a number of years, but nothing lasts forever, and it's time to move on. Like, people get stagnant, and I feel like he's maybe got stagnant. He's obviously a talented individual in what he does, and I'm sure he'll pick up work elsewhere, and I'm sure he could make a manager himself one day, but it's just not here and not now. With regards to the rumours about him being a sporting director, no, not for me. Again, he shouldn't be at the club. I can understand the links, because they could be looking for the typical Celtic man to come and sell the club to future players and the rest of it. But for me, that man should have been Scott Brown. He should have kept hold of him. And if there's anybody that's going to sell this wonderful club to future players, and he's the man. He's been there for forever and won countless trophies, and absolute captain and leader. I know Kennedy speaks well and whatnot, and like I say, I can see the link, but for me, he shouldn't be anywhere near the club. Him and Strachan with his laptop should have been packed up and away when Lennon left. Like I say, it's not one man's fault. It's not just Neil Lennon's fault. It's a collective thing.
So, you're 100% right with that.
Shouldn't be anywhere near the club at the moment for me.
They should be using Strachan's laptop to build themselves an Indeed profile with a CV attached to it. Throw it out there to see who wants them. But I'm going to come at this from a different angle here. A wee bit of, not trying to see, just to see where they're trying to come from. So we know Scott Brown's leaving, and various other players are linked with moves away, and the loan players are going to go back, and there's not going to be much players left apart from McGregor and a few others who have this big Celtic affiliation, a big Celtic connection. So if the negotiations with Fergal Harkin, and this is just me purely speculating, I haven't seen anything saying this, just put that out there. It's just quite coincidental that John Kennedy's name's now linked with the position he's been linked with. But is this them maybe thinking themselves, shit, with no one else to turn to? Kennedy's got that connection. He was recommended in 2019 for the role when Rodgers was Celtic manager, or ex-Celtic manager now. But are they trying to get the link with a bit of familiarity with the club? So if Eddie Howe comes in, it's a smooth transition. So the likes of, if Eddie Howe wants to ask the board questions, that's the go-between. I don't know, Francis, but I'm trying to come at this from a different angle. But can you see it from that point of view?
Yeah, I totally get it. Like William touched on, it's somebody that knows the club and stuff. So I do get it from that sense, and it does make a wee bit of sense on that sense, because obviously from previous podcasts that we've done with ex-players, they've alluded to Kennedy's got a good relationship with players and youth players. So I get that, because obviously you want the director of football, sporting director, to kind of know the day-to-day running of the club, know the youth level, and sort of know how the club runs and stuff. So I do get it from that angle. And if there's got to be a lot of new faces maybe coming in, it makes sense to have someone that knows the club and to give you that seamless link. But I think William made a great point with that guy should have been Scott Brown. I think Kennedy should have been away, but I do, to just kind of talk about your point and that, and not give my point of view whether Kennedy should be there or not. I think it should be. I do understand why you would keep somebody like Kennedy, but for me, I'm not against them maybe staying for a year, but not under that title. Maybe use them for that to help integrate folk in. Maybe put them back out the coaching staff or some sort of maybe. I don't think it would be an ambassador role, but just maybe it is that sort of a meet and greet person. This is how the club runs. This is what we're looking for. Just maybe they we go between for the new manager and stuff and the rebuild, but just maybe as a year, but try and get a director of football and don't give him the title of director of football, sport director. Maybe just keep him on some sort of coaching level, but say to him, look, there will be other bits of the role where we want you to integrate folk in. So I do get it from that angle, having a Celtic guy in there. So yeah, I understand why maybe Celtic are doing that. I do understand that if the rumours are true.
It is hard to try and come at it with an angle like that because we have said it before and various other people said it. Like Kennedy for me and Strachan are guilty by association from this season. And as William rightly said, that it's not a one-man effort in terms of the manager or the coach. They should have pitched in and helped if they had ideas, but we've seen that over the last couple of matches that they're just completely devoid of any tactics or any ideas. So there is much to blame. And when I say them, I mean Gavin Strachan and John Kennedy. They should be out the door as well. I don't want them at Celtic Football Club no more. I firmly believe that yes, John Kennedy, I said it at the top when we mentioned him, he suffered a horrendous injury, but as William said, he can go out and get a job somewhere else and earn his stripes. And if in the future that means to come back the Celtic Park as a manager or whatever, even in a different capacity, then so be it. Just earn that experience somewhere else, and then if you do well, then your career is going to take off. You can't stay at one club for the whole of your life in terms of a management or coaching perspective. But another thing as well, William, people seem to forget about this. It seems to be kind of at the back door of everyone's thoughts. Now, we've seen that Nicky Hammond's going to be leaving his role as head of recruitment end of the season. Now there's another position that the Celtic board need to fill, and rather quick as well if we're going to get any players in the door. And a name that we interviewed, David Webb, fantastic interview, and he just gave an insight to everything that goes on within a club and all the people he's worked under. He found the likes of Wilfred Zaha and all them types of players, and he's worked with Pochettino, Eddie Howe. He just most recently working with Huddersfield as their director of football. So why is this kind of been shoved to the side? Because for me as well, the head of recruitment has a vital role in the next rebuild process in terms of scouting players, surely.
Yeah, massive. That's the future of the club. That's like one of the biggest positions at the club. This is what's even more frustrating. It's bad enough we've not got a manager, but it's pretty much from top to bottom. There's a massive turnover this year, and obviously there must be working behind the scenes, and we don't see what the ins and outs are. But it just feels like Celtic feels like a sleeping dog at the moment. See when you poke a sleeping dog, and you're like, "Come on, do something, move, come on, let's go," and nothing's happening. I've never been so frustrated in my whole entire life as I have been these last couple of months. Yeah, people that, like you say, that it's kind of taking a back burner. That's like, we forget Hammond's going. Also, that's a massive part. Again, where's the plan B, plan C, plan D? Like surely there's somebody in the pipeline or in and around the club that they thought were going to be taken over when Hammond goes. The whole club's just an absolute farce at the moment. It's really difficult to see any positive at the moment, which is sad because I'm usually very positive, and this is a wonderful club, and we've had a lot of good times. But at the moment, we're in a very, very low place, and it's really hard to see where we're going.
Right, because you say, it's like just getting a direct. Like Willie said, you need like scouts and all that. Like a lot of backroom staff we need again. Like you say, the head of recruitment and that, and it's like. It's honestly like 12 months ago we had a 90 metre head start in a 100 metre race, and we've turned round after 95 metres and just stood there.
Brilliant.
See, we should have targets in mind right now to sign before these Champions League qualifiers. We should have scouts out there right now. But we're like, I know we've got a couple of guys on pre-contracts agreements and stuff, and guys coming in. Who's signing these guys? All these people that are at the club are leaving. Like Hammond's going, Lowell's going, Like
managers away,
but
the captains
yeah,
away.
there's no even manager there. The captain's away. Who's making these decisions?
It's madness.
And
Madness when you put it like that.
You're so right when you say it's hard to come at it with a positive outlook. You always call me Mr. Negative, and I do really live up to that tag. I have to admit, like I always throw in wee curveballs now and then into the chat. And I watched William last week blow his top, which was absolutely hilarious. But
I've been blowing my top for 8 weeks.
It's just a passion, William. It's a passion.
Yeah, it is the passion. It's for the club we all love, as you rightly said, Celtic Football Club. But as we always say, I think what we've seen this year, fan media and different outlets, different podcasts, alternative media, fanzines, and certain websites and stuff are really taking off because the Celtic fans are looking for a different angle to look at things and approach different situations. And the stuff coming out of Celtic Park at the moment is quite just happy birthdays and on this day, Scott Brown scored a screamer and that type of thing. So I think fan media and podcasts really took off, and I was quite interested. I watched a 2 hour long live show on the Celtic State of Mind channel. Shout out to them guys. They had on the Celtic Trust and Celtic Shared. Like basically, I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about it because I just know what I know from last night, and I'll do it as best as I can here. So the Celtic Trust is basically formed to try and give the fans a better say on how the clubs run in terms of shares, because there's tons of sleeping shares in the 90s that haven't been kind of took up. They're in the process of trying to find them, convert them into shares into Celtic Football Club. You can also go on the Celtic Trust website to sign up in terms of subscription basis, which the subscription collectively goes to buying shares in the Celtic Football Club. And I think that's a brilliant way of doing things at the moment, Francis, because we need more say in how our club we love is run. We've seen the stupid thing with the Super League, the European Super League, the fans outpouring, the raids from the fans down south, and rightly so, because if they had signed up to that without no backlash, then the clubs would be doing that next season. And I think fans forget the part that they actually have and the how their clubs run and what should be going on within their club. Now, what's your opinion on the whole share issue thing? Because another idea that they were floating around as well was if Celtic fans are looking refunds, they've said that the Celtic Trust have approached Celtic Football Club and said, instead of a cash refund, convert the cash into shares and give it to the supporters. Is that something that you like the idea of in terms of getting shares into the club?
I'm not against it, but I'm cautious. Similarly to you, Stephen, I'm not going to pretend I know the total ins and outs of how it's going to work financially and all that. So I would really need to know that, for like how the financial side of it works. And that, for example, say Celtic had to raise £15 million, just as a figure to chuck out there. Is that on the fans to then come up with that money? Or who's coming up with that money? I mean, I know it's a model that they use in Germany and Spain, and I believe in Germany it's 51% owned by these fan bases, and the other 49% is whoever it's broke up. So yeah, the fans are the majority shareholders, but ultimately they're not making. They've got more of a say, but they're not making the final choice. But I suppose it's a positive if they have the final say, because they should, in theory, have the club's best interests at heart. But my worry also with it is the financial side. It's who comes in with the money when we need money. Could the other 49% say, well, so use technically on the club, use over the bigger share, it's on use, and we're sitting there. Could be Joe Bloggs off the street that's just got an everyday job that's got a share in it and can't afford to pump this money in. But also, like, just maybe try to take an educated guess. I'm assuming a lot of it will be taken up by supporters clubs that will maybe be able to drive up funds within their supporters club, and then going to sort of feel like the board meetings or these meetings that decide what direction the club maybe goes in. Is that then going to just be the CEO or the top guy of this supporters club that's then going to, and he might just have a wee vented interest in what he or she wants as opposed to what the actual supporters club wants? So I would really need to know a lot more about it and maybe do a wee bit of research on it, but it's not something against, but I'd be cautious just for the financial side of it, because as we've said, we need to look to how we can sort of promote our game better without jumping down south in that. So it is a good idea, but I just think financially we'd need to make sure we're on the ball waiting how it works.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a chance, just watch the show that they did last night on the Celtic
I'll need to catch up.
Yeah, from what I took of it, just small points briefly, William. So basically, the model is, it's not like, the way they were explaining, it's not like at the moment they're like 20% shareholders in Celtic, just say, it's just normal fans just trying to buy a share in Celtic Football Club. And then if they call it sleeping shares, so there's people who's moved away, forgot about shares, or people who've unfortunately passed on and stuff, and they've got shares in their name. They're trying to find them shares and get them back. So that's the type of model they're going for, just to try and get more say and direction in the way Celtic Football Club's going. And they also brought up a good point last night. It's also to provide a stable income as well in terms of the subscription. I think it's around £6 or £7 a month for the. I think you can go higher than that, but I think that's the base level. But William, I think for me it's vitally important that an average fan does have a say in how Celtic's run, because the disconnect this season with the board has been the biggest in my lifetime. I'm 26, so I don't really remember the 90s that well. So this is the biggest disconnect I've ever seen with the board. I think there's so much animosity towards them. There's so much misunderstanding, miscommunication, and maybe going down this way of getting shares or trying to get a better say, or getting even a normal Celtic fan on the board to go to these meetings to try and give the say of the fans' point of view. I know, I think it's the supporter liaison officer, Mr. Taylor. He does that. So I think that there needs to be more than people on board. I don't know about yourself, William. What's your opinion on the share intake and uptake?
Yeah, again, I'm not as clued up, but this season has shown more than ever that football without fans is nothing. It's pretty pointless going on if you've not got the fans. That's what it's all about. That's what football's all about. And like you say, the disconnect between the club and fans over the last however many months, the silence is deafening. So for me, any sort of platform where us as fans can get information or have a say or get our point across, I think it can only be positive. I read into it a little bit today, and I think it sounds great. I think it can only be positive for the club.
Yeah, brilliant. And anyone who wants to check that out as well, just visit www.celtictrust.net. They've got a list of questions as well, frequently asked questions, and they go for each one. And also check out the show that they've done last night with the Celtic City Man guys. And also big shout out to Celtic Shirt, who's basically promoting what they're saying and getting that out there too. They're on Twitter. They've got a Twitter page at Celtic Shirt, so give them a follow too. But we'll move on, okay? So we've seen over the last 48 hours, there has been quite a lot of bit coming out of Celtic Park. Maybe rumours, but we'll go over it anyway. So we've seen some Celtic players linked away with moves, and the likes of Christopher Ireland and Norwich. And I put that on Instagram, and everyone's saying, no chance that happening, it's Norwich, blah, blah, blah. But what I'm looking at this is money talks now in the game. And if Norwich are going to offer him 65 grand a week or 70 grand a week, and no matter if it's Norwich now, it's unfortunate, but most footballers smell the money and off they go down the road. And then we've seen Sorrow bizarrely linked with Spurs. I don't know where that came from, that he's been linked with a move away to Spurs. It's the same as a cheap alternative to like Mohamed Sissoko and Dobbin and stuff for cover midfield. But I'll go to yourself, William, first. These rumours come out. Doesn't this make it an urgent matter to get someone in to quash these rumours, to say these players are staying or these players are going? Because again, it's all wish-wash. It's all what we're seeing on the news or what we're seeing through Twitter. And as you said before, it's absolutely annoying as hell because you don't know what to believe.
Yeah, I'm not as annoyed as much with that as a manager situation, purely because I'm expecting a massive turnover this year. I don't want to see the likes of Iron and stuff go, but I'm sort of expecting it. So, and with the Norwich connection, I can definitely see him going to Norwich. The Premier League's a massive draw for most players now, and like you say, the money's incredible in it. And we've seen plenty of players before going down. We obviously see it as a step down. There's plenty of players before that have came to Celtic that have went to clubs like that. It's a massive undertaking. I was looking at the team that started against Rangers in the Cup, and the starting 11. I was looking at it and I think looking at our first game of next season, there's maybe 2 of that starting 11 will start next season. I was going through the team and I thought Bain was in goals. I think we need to look at a new keeper next year. Kenny at right back is going back from his loan. I can't see Welsh starting next year. I think he's done fantastically well this year and coming in. But hopefully Julian's back by then, and I imagine we're going to strengthen in that position. Ayer looks like he's on his way out. Laxalt started, and I'll pay his ticket myself back to Milan. Then we had Brown in midfield. He's already away. We've got Kalmack and Turnbull. They're the only two I think look like they may be our starting 11 next year. We had El Yunusian left. Another lone player. Looks like he's on his way back. Eddie up front. It's common knowledge. It looks like he's on his way. And who else? Who did we have on the right? Was it Christie started in the right? He looks like he's on his way. He looks like he's on his way as well. So at this moment, obviously Forrest was injured, so I think he'll be in there. But from that 11, which Kennedy obviously thinks was our strongest 11 at that point, for me it looks like we're going to have two of them starting next year. Mm-hmm. That is bonkers for us to go into a season where we've got Champions League in 80 whatever days, and we're in one of our biggest seasons upcoming. We need to win this league title back, and to think that starting 11, there could be only two of them starting next year, and we've still not got a manager in place or a plan in place. It just blows my mind.
Well, the reason I bring up the players like the way, Francis, I think it's quite a valid point. Clubs would see Celtic now not as a weak touch, but as someone that can test with under transfer fees well under what the players actually worth, because we've got no leadership, we've got no direction. And just for example, and I'm just going to throw it out there, if Norrie's bid 9 million, if Ayer gets a whiff of that from his agent, and just say, for example, Celtic's rejected that, and he's going, why'd you reject that for? I want to go. Then there's no manager in place to talk Ayer out of that, and his agents clearly want that money down south. Now, this is all hypothetical, but would you not say this leaves Celtic in a vulnerable position in the early stages of a transfer market, especially for outgoing players not getting the value that they deserve for them?
That's nothing new, is it? But unfortunately, because of the league we're in, we're always got to get looked down upon. I mean, to go back to Virgil van Dijk, I mean, we've got decent money for Virgil van Dijk, but look at him now. And then you can just you've got Fraser Forster, Wanyama, even Stuart Armstrong. Stuart Armstrong's got the potential of going for pretty decent money. And Kieran Tierney, if he keeps progressing, then he's got to go for stupid money. But teams are got to do it simply because, like, the way the modern sort of transfer works now, it's if a bid comes in, the players already probably agreed terms with that team. They probably know, because teams don't want to really come in for a boy and say, right, we'll put a bid in. The bid gets agreed, and the boy's like, well, I'm not going there. So it's usually like, say for example, Ayer isn't going to Norwich. I think he'll have already agreed some sort of personal terms with Norwich. Then it's after that they'll then sort of chase it to see if they can get a deal done. So I think if he's agreed terms, he will obviously be. I would hope not, but players nowadays maybe have a wee word with the manager. We've not got one, but they have somebody a wee word within somebody at the club. Usually the manager saying, look, I want to go. And I don't know how many years has Ayer got left in his contract. Is it 1 or 2? Because if it's 1, 9 million's got to be a great price for him. I do believe it's undervalued for him. It's undervalued for.
I think William brings up a really valid point as well, because if you look at the squad, right? And
I can't see when William read that out. I can't argue with any.
This is the point I'm trying to get to. So if you look at the squad, and there's potentially 2 or 3 players, the likes of Kalmack, Turnbull. I was about to say Lewis Ferguson for some reason, but that's only because I've signed him in the Football Manager team. he does come into my head there. But James Forrest as well, the state at Celtic. But and then you look at it and you're going to yourself, holy shit! Because believe it or not, I've seen people say that it's not possible that Celtic can let 11, 12 players go. But believe me, if players want to leave, they will find a way to leave.
Oh, totally.
See, another point as well. You talk about the club's penny pinching to get our players, and it's happened for as long as I can remember. Yeah, we've not got a manager in place. I could guarantee if Brendan Rodgers was at the club, he'd be talking to Ayer and co. And
brilliant, yes.
It'd make it a very, very hard decision to leave. Also, another point, the board falling or whoever it is falling asleep at the wheel again. A lot of these players do only have a year left.
Aye.
Eddie has a year left. Christie has a year left. I'm not
sure
about Ayer.
I think Christie's only 6 months, mate.
Because it's in January. I've seen that. I did see that.
So we could be actually losing him technically for nothing.
So
I hope so.
These clubs are So these clubs are going to come in, try and penny pinch, and if we say no, they'll just say, okay, we'll speak to them in 6 months. Exactly what we did with did we not do similar with Turnbull?
I think.
I know his contract wasn't ending, but it was the whole injury situation, and we were like, well, we'll tell you what, we'll come back in 6 months and just offer you less, and we'll get him. And again, these are all assets, Eddie and all that. We should have tried to get them on another year extension, or you know what I mean? Before,
maybe say to him at that season, going, here's an extra 10 grand on your wages. We'll still sell you next year, but it's been us 2 years to kind of bump your price up. I agree with that.
Either that or have a look. I know we were going into that 10 season, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, but looking at it and going, he's going to go for pennies next year. We need to get shot and bring somebody else in.
Then go get your number one like that, Ivan Toney.
So we feel like there is going to be a massive turnover this year, but it would soften the blow a bit if we're getting money for these guys. But it looks like we're going to get pennies for them.
I know.
I think you actually bring up a good point in terms of if we had a manager in place, the likes of Eddie Howe, for example, he could speak to these players at the moment and say, look, this is our plan or vision for next season. But if you go back weeks ago when Scott Brown announced he was leaving Celtic, he actually said one of the main reasons he made that decision was because there was no clarity in who the manager was going to be next season. And I find that astonishing. And I know before I've said I wouldn't be too sad to see see Scott Brown leave, and I'm still of that opinion, but I do respect the guy, and he's been our captain for all these years, all these wonderful years, and he's a club icon in my eyes. But for the club captain to come out and say that one of the reasons he's leaving Celtic is because of the lack of clarity, that was a big red flag for me, that they're not even
that comment surprised me in the sense that I'm surprised it became public knowledge that was one of the reasons he left, that he actually decided to make that public.
You can't tell me he's the only one in the dressing room that's feeling that way.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm meaning just more, the guy that gave us 14 years, this is not a dig at Brown by any chance. I think it's an actual brave move for him, and kudos to him for doing that. I was actually surprised at that statement.
I think it was a comment of a fan. Dismay. It's what's happening at the moment. I wasn't disappointed in the comment.
No. I was disappointed, but not at Scott Brown.
I think that the reason I'm bringing that up, I'm not saying I was disappointed in him saying that. I'm saying him saying that for me, that if you're thinking of anyone in the club, regardless of the manager, he should be told what the next steps are.
100%.
For him to come out and say that, that's mad. It was almost like as well, maybe subconsciously he was trying to give the board a kick up the arse and maybe get them in the gear, but that didn't happen as well.
It doesn't look like it has.
Yeah, and just to touch upon before we move on to the game at the weekend, the rebuild. I know people are that word's going to be. It will have to be what do you call that? They're patented. It'll have to be give that to Celtic fans because the amount of times we're saying it at the moment. But it's mad, the rebuild. Weeks if you hadn't a manager in place when any left after a couple of weeks, maybe you could say yes, the new guy's in. He's going to assess the squad. And maybe it won't be as bad. But as William said now, and I titled it in our group chat, it's more than bricks. It's a whole housing estate now we have to build because you're struggling to get a five-a-side team out of the players who could potentially beat our next season, Francis. So just quickly, going into these Champions League qualifiers in 86 days, 87 days, whatever it is, have you any confidence at all?
No, simple as that, no. Just kind of, because of the lack of clarity, I know I've tried to sort of argue against you on that, but I mean, you can only argue it to an extent. I don't know how any Celtic fan can honestly answer that question and say, yes, I'm confident going to. I mean, even when, going previous seasons when we've been in a better situation, we're always gambling. We're always gambling with the Champions League, these qualifiers, and maybe not signing somebody until we're through a round and stuff. So to actually have the extent of a rebuild that we're probably going to have and say you're confident, I just think is madness if you say you're confident of these qualifiers.
It's quite daunting, isn't it? And I think you're 100% right, just to get my catchphrase in there in case any sponsorships. But I think as well that you're looking at the playing squad, the playing staff. It's just a massive upheaval, and we always said, we go back to the first podcast we done in the Celts, and me and John were speaking about it even then. The bricks, the plans, the steps should have been in place well before Christmas, William. And you're looking at this now, and even as a season, if you're going to renew your season ticket, and there's no manager being announced, and why would you part with the best part of £600 for a dodgy £90 stream and a playing squad is going to be decimated next season?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question because I don't know why anybody would. Obviously, like we're going to because we love this club, and it doesn't matter where we are, we're going to support them. But like I touched upon earlier, it's a sad state we're in at the moment, and it's not a massive squad we've got either. I think that's one of the reasons we've kind of stuck with the same personnel all season, because we've no, like, if we're taking somebody out the team, there's not really much there to replace. So when these guys do go out, I've not even got a second string squad to put in their place in the meantime. Massive overhaul, massive turnover. The Euros is just around the corner. So to get, say for argument's sake, it is only 2 or 3 for that starting 11 at play, to get the rest of the squad in to gel when the core of our team that is staying looks like they're going to be at the Euros also. How in the hell are we going to have time to get a team together, to get a manager to stamp his own philosophy, to get the team in the mind frame of how he wants things to work, for us to go into a Champions League qualifier prepared? It's not possible. It's not going to happen. I think we're going to have to keep our fingers crossed and hope we get a decent draw and scramble through the first round or so and then take it from there. But at the moment, looking ahead, clarity is the word. We've not got any of it. It's not looking good at the moment. I know it sounds a bit all doom and gloom, but we just say it like it is, and that's how the feeling is around the club at the moment.
I think the way you're coming across there, the only thing I can really say to you there, William, well summed up. That's how every Celtic fans feel at the moment. And yes, we may get accused of being negative or negativity, but again, guys, it's where we are at the moment. I'm not going to paint over any cracks because that's what the Celtic board have been doing with us for years. They've been filling gaps and hoping it works. And yes, over the 9 years it has worked. We've got tremendous success out of it. But this year especially, the lack of planning has been just outrageous. That we've crumbled. We've absolutely crumbled like a biscuit in a cup of tea. You dunk it in, it cracks off, and you get to the bottom of your tea, you're absolutely raging because it tastes stinking. And that's the way we are at the moment. And
yeah.
You look at it get into these qualifiers, and you also have to factor in there, William and Francis, there's a pre-season that has to be done somewhere. So to get these players in and gelled, and it's going to be virtually impossible because, as you said, the people who are staying with Celtic will be more likely at the Euro competition with Scotland and maybe a couple other international things. But again, it's something we're going to have to keep our fingers crossed for. And I think hoping for a good draw is kind of pessimistic because we're in the crappy side of things. We're not in the champions run or champions path. So it's going to be literally a lucky dip to see who we get. And we do keep our fingers crossed, and we always believe and want to believe we're going to do well in Europe and the league next season as well. So hopefully maybe next week we get an announcement in terms of management. But we're going to move on. We've got another Glasgow derby game to look forward to. As I said in the last podcast, it seems to be a conveyor belt of these games at the moment. But I'll go to yourself, Francis, first. I always say in every kind of game review, are you expecting anything different? What do you want the management to do? And anything we say, I think we've been wrong 100% of the time. So I'm going to say this to you. What do you expect John Kennedy to do?
Well, I mean, I'll try and elaborate, but much the same anyway. I think it'll just be much the same. Hopefully Forrest is fit, but I've not really seen or heard anything to suggest he's going to be available. And I don't know if any of you guys know the situation with Ayer. Is he available? Fingers crossed he is again. I would really like him to start Ayeti and Griffiths up front, or at least play. I think he'll probably start El Yunusi up top, because I think he's got to play. If we want to up top, we're going to have to go with this diamond anyway. So I hope he doesn't play Eddie, just simply because, like we've all said, he doesn't want to be at the club. It's not really turned up the last few Glasgow derby games. So what's the point in playing him? What's the point in playing him? Just give Ayeti or Griffiths a run out, or the two of them up there together with him, and maybe even chucked, if he's wanting to play 5 across the midfield, maybe chuck Dembele out right mid and just say, look, I'll give you 45 minutes. It's a free hit. Go for it. See what you've got. I appreciate it's maybe the wrong game for the fact that he would come up against Barisic, who, it's not nice to say, but the guy's a really, really good player. Best left back in the league by a country mile. So maybe, and he's a big, tall lad compared to Dembele, but why not? Why not just give the guy confidence to say, like, you turn to him on the Friday or whenever you announce the team and that and say, look, I'm going to play you tomorrow. I'll give you 45 minutes. If it's not working out, I'll take you off, but it's not a slant on you. It's just, we might just need to go and get somebody else on, but I'll give you 45 minutes. Just keep running at the boy. I doubt he'll do that. There's absolutely no chance he'll do that.
I think as well,
I wouldn't mind that.
As Celtic fans, I think we would respect that more. I think just changing it and trying something different. And I'm going to be a wee bit harsh here. Maybe not harsh, and most Celtic supporters' eyes is probably the true thing. I wouldn't have any of the lone players anywhere near the starting lineup here coming up with the Glasgow Derby game. I know I will now say
everyone got hefty, but
aye, 100%. But this is my personal opinion. The likes of El Nusi, I know sometimes, yes, I've done it before myself, and a few goals he scored have been absolutely quality, and he plays well and he wants to play well. But just he shows up and fits and starts, and I don't think that's appropriate, especially come towards the end of the season. We need players who are going to be there. Kenny, for me, I said it before, he just makes me want to sleep, cuddle up into my blanket and go to sleep. And Laxalt, his positional sense is like he's in the stands most of the time. And it's, for me, I just don't think now's the time to play these guys, because as William said, there's probably 2 or 3 people in that lineup who may be there next season. Give it to them. Give it to some of the young guys like Ralston. Bring him in and play him right back. As you said, bring young Carmoko in. What's the harm? Let's see what the kid's about. I know he's against Barisic, but I'm pretty sure Dembele's going to be intelligent enough in playing under international football of England and Scotland to drift around and pick up possessions away from him and get his space somewhere else in the pitch. And that's what you need, game awareness. And yes, I can see a Yeti coming in. I would like to see Yeti play, and Griffiths, he defies opinion in our group chat. But I'll go to yourself, William, before we go to the lineup predictions. How are you feeling going into this weekend's game? Is it just a bit of it's another game, just get it done and wait till the end of the season, or is it pumped up blood going?
Well, I'm a barrel of laughs tonight, but no, not really. It's probably the least pumped up I've felt for a Glasgow derby in a long time. It's not really a dead rubber, is it? We need to make sure we get rid of this invincible with an asterisk nonsense. So we do need it. It's massive for us. We still need the win, but yeah, it's kind of a bit flat. Again, for me. We've not got the fans. The last 2 derbies I've watched, they've been like training matches. The last league game, the first half we came out firing. Second half, I honestly thought I was watching a training match. And if there was fans in the stadium, they wouldn't be allowing that. If I'm being completely honest, I think it's just going to be much the same. Chances created, very little taken, maybe a sucker punching at the other end. Doom and gloom from Mr. Dobbin tonight.
To be fair, I can't say anything but a negative result from him. But I think we need to. Sounds stupid. I think we really need to try our best to get a positive result, just to lay down some sort of marker for next season. I appreciate, like we said, a lot of the players are not going to be there, but if you can just maybe put a decent display in, get a good result, like get a win, it maybe just puts a wee marker down for next season. Fingers crossed. But like William, I don't see anything but a negative result. Maybe get a draw, but I don't see it.
Saying all that, like the squad is like the squad as it has been all season, is more than capable of beating any team in that league easily.
Yeah,
they've just not shown it this year. And when you're seeing that consistently, confidence is obviously going to go, and it's not just going in fans; it's obviously going on in a club. But to touch on these guys that are leaving, I see if he is going to play them. Why you should be sitting them down and saying, "Listen, if you're off, this is one of the biggest games in world football. All the eyes are going to be on us this weekend. Show what you're made of, and win your move."
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with both yous. I wouldn't play any of them. Eddie would be getting dropped for me. Kenny could get dropped. the whole lot could get dropped. To be honest with you, I would like to see Sorrow in there. I'd love to see Griffiths and Ayeti, but I've seen a lot of people screaming out for it. I think they would work well together. Ayeti for me, I've said it before, Gary Hooper type 6-yard box. The amount of chances we've created this season that haven't been taken, I think he would be putting someone away. And you can't tell me, for example, in that last Derby game, that El Yunusi chance or the penalty, Griffiths isn't putting both of them away.
Well, Griffiths probably wouldn't have,
guys
because Eddie would have been. Eddie stole it off him. Eddie stole it off him, so Griffiths never going to sniff at it.
I don't necessarily think that we're being negative. I said before, it's just the reality of the situation we find ourselves in, and I said it numerous times. I hate talking like this. I hate seeing where the results are going to come from, because, as William rightly said, a squad on paper only, should be beating any team in that league quite comfortably. But as you rightly said as well, the confidence takes a hit, and if you're not getting results, then the players' heads are going to go down. And in terms of the players who want them to win their move, that's where I think if we had a top coach and a top manager in just at this moment to psych them up and say, look, I'm as a manager, I'm only in the door, and I appreciate that you're looking for a move, but you go out there, you give your best, you play for the club, and you'll get that move. Just a wee bit of motivation. I think the players lack it, especially if they're looking across to the dugout and they're seeing the same old faces associated with the shambles we've seen this season. I think that's another part of it as well, on the players' point of view, and that's not to stick up to them, because they've been a joke themselves, and the likes of Edward hasn't showed up, and this lack of effort from everybody. But just to move on, I'll come to yourself, William, first. Now, the lineup prediction. The way I'm looking at this is the big sigh from Francis. That's how you know. The way I'm looking at this, I'm going to come at it from who I want to play. So I'm going to throw in a few curveballs in my lineup, because I think we know in our heads what's going to happen in terms of what formation he's going to play and what personnel. But just to throw it out there, William, who have you gone for?
So you want the team that I would play personally? Your
team. Play your team.
Right, okay. So do we know is Forrest fit? Is Ayer fit?
I don't know about Forrest, but I think Ayer only has a shoulder injury. I think he should be fit.
Right, okay. Well, if it was for me, how am I going to work this out?
Take your time, William, because it's giving me a chance to write one down.
Well, you know what, right? I've been his biggest critic this year. Maybe not his biggest. Maybe Ross has been his biggest critic. I would stick Barkas in the goal.
Yes.
I would go with Kenny at right back, only because I don't think we've got much else there. I know you said Ralston, but I think I would go Kenny, Iron Welsh in the middle, Taylor at left back. I would go Sorrow, McGregor, Turnbull, and if Forrest isn't fit, I'd go with Christie, and I would put Griffiths and Ayeti up front.
I thought am I just off the phone here to John Kennedy? Is that you, William?
Yeah, I think you'll find there's at least 5 changes in there.
I only told we went up. me personally, I would go with Barkas, Ralston, Welsh, Ayer, Taylor, Sorrow, McGregor, Turnbull, Carmoko on the right if Forrest isn't fit. On the left is where it gets a bit hazy for me, because you're probably forced to play LNC. So I would play LNC there only because of the lack of options on the left. If Forrest is fit, I would play him on the left and Carmoko on the right. And then up top, I would play Ayeti. So like a 4-3-3 type formation for me, just to see if the guys can link up, because we know, as William said, he has the same build as a Gary Hooper type striker, and he scored the penalty box goals. And him and Moy had a brilliant partnership at Val and Switzerland. So there has to be something there to be ignited, to be lit. There must be a fire.
When you're talking about that left-hand side, Stephen, I think a massive part of this year is, and I've touched on it there before, and I said the squad's not massive, and like our second string side, so to say, there's nobody there. Eddie's just turned up every week, and he knows he's getting a start, so he's not performing. He's nobody pushing him. I feel the same in the left with Mo, and I think we made a massive mistake in letting Scott Sinclair go. I think he could have been
100%.
massive this season for us, and we've not had anybody out there. We talk about the width. I think with the fullbacks as well. Sorry, Stephen.
I think Scott Sinclair is Preston's second top goal scorer.
I think he's having a decent season. I think he's having a very good season, to be fair.
What were you going to say there?
I'm a fan of Taylor. I like Taylor at left back, but he's not he's not a winger. He can't beat a man. And I always thought Tierney worked well with Sinclair because of the movement, and Tierney could overlap. I think Taylor needs that, and I think somebody like that would have been perfect for him as well, for us to get more width. But obviously hindsight's another thing, and I know he had a massive contract and they wanted him off the wage bill, and Lennon didn't fancy him. But just when you say that there, and I think we're lacking depth. I think somebody like Sinclair could have flourished in a season like this, especially with our lack of goals and how good a finisher he is.
Yeah, good point. That's a pretty valid point, to be fair. I think most of us have not forgot about Scott Sinclair, but he kind of fell off the radar. But on the left, when he played, he was frightening sometimes. And as you said, he linked up well with Tierney in the movement because he always cut inside and he had a bit of pace, a bit of whip about him as well. So, yeah, hindsight is a wonderful thing. But again, it's what we have to deal with in the here and now, and it's unfortunate, but it's where we are. But what about yourself, Francis? What have you gone for in your lineup?
Well, who I would like to start is obviously I'm with you, Stephen. I'm not saying I like Barkas, but I feel there's something in there, so I'll put Barkas in. Kenny, Ayer, Welsh, Taylor.
By the way, sorry,
Barney.
I think you're Barkas's agent, by the way. I meant in this podcast you're bigging him up. Are you trying to get him a big move?
I'm getting him back. I'm getting him back to Athens on loan, if you believe the papers. So that's my back line with Barkas, Kerry, Ayer, Welsh, Taylor. I would like to play Sorrow, Kalmack just sitting in there, Dembele out in the right, Tumble, and like we say, just because of the formation, I would have to put El Yunusi out there, and I'd probably play, as much as I would want Ayeti start, I'd probably play Griffiths up front in that formation, simply as I don't know, I don't think Ayeti is great up front himself. I think he needs somebody up there, but if I want Dembele in, I can only really play one striker, and I think Griffiths would play that role better, but I know that team's got to be miles off of what Kennedy will actually put out.
Yeah. Well, again, it's our preferences. I just wanted to do it that way because it's just a wee bit of difference in our opinions and stuff. And I think we can all see that we do want change, and every Celtic fan probably listening wants that change, wants to see something from different members of the team. And let's see if we get that on Sunday against them across the city. But as we all probably know, it'll be the same old. But to move on to some brighter prospects, we'll go to the score predictions.
Better not ask mine then.
As you're laughing, I'll go to you first.
I've went 2-1 Rangers.
Oh, no.
It's just simply because I think the team they'll put out will be much as what we've seen, and that team's just not been clinical enough. So I think I'm actually being generous in giving us a goal, I think.
Fair enough. I mean, we're going to get so much hate. No, we're joking. What about yourself, William? What have you gone for?
I'm not going to have as harsh thing as Tony did the other night and say that Rangers are woeful. Like they're obviously a decent side and done well this year. But they've not looked the best since clinching the title, and we keep making chances. We can't keep giving them up. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, and I'm hoping he gives Griffiths time on the pitch, because fit or not fit, give him an hour. He showed it at Aberdeen. Eddie's not scoring that goal or that chance that he scored, and I guarantee that half the chances that were made in previous games, if Griffiths is there in the box, he's putting it away. I'm going to go for Griffiths to score the winner 2-1.
So my only concern with the game is now they're out the cup, and they maybe got to come a wee bit. They've not got that distraction of the cup now, so I'm hoping miles off. Maybe I'm trying the whole reverse psychology thing now. Maybe Rangers will turn in a stinker again.
Maybe they should do this in Johnston. How about this? What about Barkas goes up in the last minute, scores the winner?
Well, I'll not be flipping John Joe Kenny, because he doesn't ken how to go forward.
I've went with I'm going with one each. Going to go score draw. Share the spoils. And look, we're hearing this invincible tag from them. They're not invincible. We done the invincible season, the treble. We done the invincible treble. They're doing a third of what we done. A third of it. Do you know what I mean? So I think
it's just that just puts into perspective how well we done, like the massive thing. Because take that, as horrible as it is to say, take nothing away from it. if they potentially go a league campaign invincible, that's a great feat. That's a great achievement. But to actually go a full domestic campaign undefeated and clean up, which obviously results in cleaning up in the trophies, every trophy available, then that's frightening. It's absolutely, and it just seems to be. I think I'm not saying Rangers invincible asterisk season is glossing over it, but I think the media are sort of try to put a wee bit of a dampener on what Celtic's achieved with just Rangers going potentially through a league campaign invincible.
Well, if you look at it, they've barely mentioned the fact that just literally in December there last year we completed the quadruple treble. So that's been kind of left to the side. I've heard basically zero news coverage of that from anywhere since it happened. But
that's the biggest thing for that as well. Like it's astounding that Celtic have done that. It's like Leicester City winning the Premier League, absolute bonkers. See for Celtic to win 12 domestic trophies on the trot, it is unbelievable. Like, and the fact that you've said it there, it seems to be because since Rodgers came in, it's like, oh, because the norm, Celtic win everything. I think it's been proven this year. Like, as much as we hate to say it, the Rangers have been far and away the best team in Scotland this year, and they've only won the league. They've not won any other trophies. So it shows you how difficult it is. Not only is it difficult to win a treble, to win 4 in a trot is absolutely astronomically mind-blowing. And I like you say, it seems like it's just like a run-of-the-mill thing, or Celtic have won everything now. No, this season's shown and proved that how difficult it is to win one. And so is the whole existence of Scottish football. It's I don't know how many trebles have been done before then. There's not many.
2 or 3
from each. And then we went and done 4 in a row. Are you having a laugh?
Oh, it's madness, eh? It's madness, because just to have the actual hunger to keep going, to actually I appreciate you should, as a professional football player, you should want to win trophy after trophy, but like you say, win 12 on the spin, and just to have that drive to constantly go, because you've got to have to pay 100% all the time. Your levels can't drop, which is this season shown. Yeah, Rangers have ran away, but our levels have dropped drastically, and then they've not even managed to make a semi-final in any of the 2 cups.
Yeah, and I think that's quite telling. And the only thing that annoys me is that Rangers have been far and away the best team in the league, but it's the achievement, as we've all alluded to, the Celtic done, like in the whole game, 12 domestic trophies in a row, and it never gets mentioned no more. All we hear now is this invincible tag that they've got across the city, Steven Gerrard's machine, when he's really sitting there with a dusty trophy cabinet with 1 out of 9 in it. So it might sound like I'm having a dig, and a wee bit yes I am, because success, we've earned it over time. Like 12, as William said, it's incredible, that achievement. Winning 1 treble's an achievement in itself, but 4 in a row is unbelievable.
It's laughable. It's actually laughable. Yeah.
And I think we can't get lost. It's the success we had is recent. It's not like 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. We dominated there for 9 years, and I hope as Celtic fans we don't forget. And this season has been horrendous, but it's been the worst season in my lifetime. But again, we've got our fingers crossed, and we've got that hope that we'll be back again soon. We'll be challenging again next season and winning them trophies back and bringing them back home to Celtic Park where they belong. And I think that's a perfect way for myself and us to finish the segment of this show and move on to the brighter side of life. We can all take a deep breath and relax. We're going to move on to the quiz. So we are. And I think this quiz is just a great wee thing to do at the end of the show. Wee bit of humour, wee bit of laughs between all of us as panelists on the Celts podcast. So if you guys are ready, William and Francis will crack on with the first question.
Yep.
Good to go.
Yeah, again, same rules apply. 5 questions. Get first to 3, whatever. Yeah. The only prize is your professional pride, as Celtic call it. So, in which year, just starting off nice and easy, did Celtic win the European Cup?
67.
67.
Francis, for me, that's 1 to Francis.
Should have said 67 and not 1967. Schoolboy.
John Hartson was given a Celtic debut against as a substitute against which side?
Livingston.
Nope. Over to you.
The United.
One more guess, Francis.
Oh, you've asked this before because my first guess was Dundee United, but that was who he scored his first goals against. Oh,
Told you there was going to be a curveball, didn't it?
Habs.
No, back to you, William. One more.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Dundee.
No, both wrong. It was Kilmarnock.
Because the guy said that Colin Watt said Livingston, you said another plastic pitch. Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
Which English manager sold Oliver Tibley to Celtic and then in 2002 bought him back from Celtic?
Steve Bruce.
Yep, that's 2 to you, Francis. So Bruce had Tibley at Sheffield United and he took him back to Birmingham.
Mm.
What was the score in the away leg when Celtic played Celta Vigo in the third round?
2-1 to Celta Vigo.
Yep. John Hartson with what was the goal score for Celtic. So that was basically a whitewash there, William. Did you have your mic on mute by any chance?
He's got Ross's delay.
Sorry guys, I don't know what happened there. My audio went. What was going on?
Well,
sorry, I was just standing up straight there again because I was just bent over and pumped there.
Well, Francis, I mean, well done to you. 3-0, like that's a brilliant victory of whitewash, and you totally pumped them, as William said. So, guys, fantastic show. Thanks for coming on. William and Francis, have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, good as always.
Aye.
Can't wait till we're talking a bit more positive things. But just to say, if folk do think we're talking out, come on, jump on the socials and maybe give us another angle to look at it. Maybe we're just not seeing the positives.
We welcome as a show people's opinions and we take it on board. And if anyone has a different outlook, feel free to message us and hopefully get you on the show one time. We're going to have a wee chat about that as well. And just an update, the you guys, I know you are looking out for the Edna Celts rewind to people who are listening. There's been a bit of a delay in that, so that'll be probably available next week. It's just unfortunate that schedules and work schedules and stuff have gotten in the way, but me and Ryan are getting that quickly resolved and we'll be hopefully doing that at the beginning of next week and maybe on the weekend, so it'll be available soon. So keep an eye out for that, guys. And until our next podcast will be Tuesday, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.